the belt.
Literally. Number 16 comes from Lane Spencer. He's back from San Diego, California. And he says, "Hi, Dave and Dave. Don't recall hearing you discuss this cultural artifact." And he sent us a clip to the LA Is My Lady of Van Halen appearing in that video for the intro. And it says, "Which is better, Eddie and David Lee Roth in a Sinatra video with Dean Martin, LaToya Jackson, Donna Summer, and Tommy Lasorda, or Van Hagar playing the backup band for the Hank Williams Jr. video? It makes me wonder who thought either of these guest spots was a good idea." Lance Spencer from San Diego, California. Well, I have to go with Sinatra because Sinatra's way cooler than Hank Williams Jr.
I got to go with the Hank Williams Jr. video because they looked like they were having a lot of fun.
That's true.
And a grand old time. Ed and Dave were just doing an intro, and they were done. But Van Halen were a big part of that video. And where else are you going to see Alex Van Halen? Bald, clean-shaven.
Good point. Good point. All right, I'll give it to you. Dave won that one. Letter number 17 comes from John Iarello. And he says, "Dave and Dave, I wanted to write you and thank you so much because I enjoy your podcast. I have listened to everyone at least twice, and I enjoy the update, the news, the interviews, the random facts, and the fast pacing of the show. I also enjoy that it's longer than the usual 45 minutes to an hour that most podcasts are. Anyway, I wanted to discuss several things if possible. Eddie Van Halen's horrible 1998 in-studio appearance on Howard Stern. And number 2, while Van Halen were in my hometown, Newcastle, Australia, on the Balance Tour, they went to a local fish and chip shop and asked where the locals surf. No one knew who they were and only knew them as long-hair Americans in a band. Anyway, I can't wait for the next podcast because isolation sucks. John Iarello." Well, John, I want to thank you so much for writing in. And yes, that entire Van Halen appearance in 1998 was completely lackluster. What a disappointment. Howard was pulling teeth on that one for sure. I'm not surprised that Van Halen would walk around in Australia, pre-internet of course, without being recognized. Come to think of it, I could go for some fish and chips right now. What about you, Dave?
Nothing wrong with a good plate of fish and chips.
Right. And so letter number 18 comes from Keith Sousa from Colorado, and he wants to thank you so much for carrying the VH torch. 2 quick things. Balukatherium strikes me as a song that only Dave could have squeezed lyrics and a melody into. I think part of Dave's genius is the ability to find a melodic thread where there is so much music packed into those songs. Could the reconnection with Gary be connected to something with Wolf? Maybe Wolf doesn't want to sing lead on tour, and if and when it materializes, maybe it'll be Gary. Your thoughts? Keith Sousa from Colorado. Well, I want to say that Balukatherium, absolutely. Dave would have killed that. I think Dave would have made something out of it, for sure. Now, your thoughts on Gary. Wow. I want to say good call on that, Keith. That could very well be the key as to why Gary has reconnected with Eddie. That is a really cool idea. Nice detective work, Keith. Dave, what do you think about that?
Can a guy just call another guy that he was in a band with and just reconnect as a friend? Do they have to be working on a musical project together?
I just got the vibe when Gary was on Eddie Trunk that something was going on. There seemed to be something. He was so tight-lipped about everything.
I don't know. I think Wolf's solo album is really Wolf's solo album.
Okay.
Now, who knows? I mean, that would be a great idea. Are they playing around and they want to bring Gary out on it? But I really don't think Ed's going out to tour.
No. I don't think he's going to tour.
I really don't.
That's why I think Keith has an interesting idea. Hey, you know what? Maybe it's one track. Could be one track. Who knows?
You know what? I heard Ed was in getting his car fixed, and Claudio's son said, "Hey, Gary brings his car here too.
Oh, that's right.
Why don't you guys start talking to each other again?"
That's right.
And
Claudio's son Luigi, he was like, "Hey, it's the Gary, Mr. Gary, come in."
That's right. Actually, both his sons, Mario and Luigi.
That's right, Mario and Luigi. Perhaps you know them from Donkey Kong. And so,
right.
And Claudio was like, "Hey, Eddie, Mr. Gary Sharon, bring in his 1998 Nissan Sentra," and he wanted to.
That's right. That's right. That's right. The one he got from the commercial, right? Exactly. Which he still drives around. Right. I think that it's an interesting idea. I like the way you're thinking, but I don't know. I think people try and fill in gaps where there aren't any. It's just I don't think it's much of anything other than I think Gary's just genuinely like a decent guy and just reached out because he at one time he had a good friendship with Ed and for whatever reason didn't have it and now he had an opportunity to reach in there, and I don't think he's saying much because Ed is a really private guy, and Ed's he's got some health issues going on, and Gary's not at liberty to discuss them.
I personally think that
think that's it.
Right.
I think that's it,
right.
And I think you should let it go.
Ooh, you want me to let it go? Well, I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to say
one
more thing.
I know. We'll be talking about this on the next podcast.
No, I'm just kidding.
I really think we need a conspiracy theory bumper. That's what I think we need.
Okay. I will definitely get one. But listen to this. This is what I think. I think that since Wolf signed with a record label, they want a single to really lead the album, and maybe they brought Gary in because Gary's East Coast, and he flew all the way to the West Coast to be there, and maybe Gary went there to do a little work on a single for Wolf's album. What do you think about that?
If you're saying did he do a guest vocal on it?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility.
All right.
But that's Wolf's call.
Yeah.
But that's Wolf's call. I don't think his dad was leaning on him to do anything like that.
All right. Well, listen.
So, but I don't know. I'm not holding my breath on that happening. Let me just put it to you that way.
Okay. All right. Number 19.
You're wrong. How's that? You're wrong. You're wrong.
Mr. McLaughlin is alive and well. So number 19 is Heath McCoy. He says, "Great episode, guys. Lots of meat on that bone. That story about Roth firing Templeman. Ouch. Can't wait to dig in on the Greg Renoff, Ted Templeman book." Heath McCoy. Thank you, Heath. Definitely read that book. We have covered it inside and out. There is more there in that book than what we said. We could only do the highlights, and we went on and on and on about it, but there's plenty of stuff there. That book is 460 pages.
Great read.
Yeah. The Roth firing of Templeman was brutal to read. Not that it was it was written well, but it was so hard to read. I mean, it was so kind of like
It was like heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
Right? I mean, these guys that worked together for years, and Roth it was a jerk move.
Yeah. Oh,
just like he went out of his way.
Yeah.
To screw Ted and be a jerk.
Yep, he did. Letter number 20 comes from Tim McNulty, and he says, "I was reading an article about Sammy's pre-Montrose group called Samson and Hagar. Here's one of his recordings, and here's a clip right now."
It is early, about 3 a.m. I am in my room, crying once again. I need your love. What can I do? Why can't I get through to you? Reach out to find me. I'm there to be found. It's not that I'm hiding. I've always been around. It is like dying, much worse than being blind. One sign of you seeing me would heal my worried mind.
I find it odd that it appears that this is the first official record, yet it is not mentioned anywhere in his autobiography. What do you think this is? Is he just embarrassed, or is it some complicated legal issue? It would be cool if you could track down this Pete Sampson fella and get him on the show. I bet he's got some stories. Keep up the great work, Tim McNulty from Cleveland, Ohio. Hello, Cleveland. Well, hello. And wow, this was a far reach back, and I want to thank you so much, Tim. That was really cool of you to dig that up. The backing band, Dave, believe it or not, on this record was the Peppermint Trolley Company, who recorded the Brady Bunch theme. If you can believe it or not, the duo of Samson and Hagar released 2 songs, Reach Out and Find Me, and Read My Thoughts. This was all before he became the Red Rocker. But there was no mention of this in his book, Red. What do you think?
I think it's because he didn't sing the songs. I don't think that's him singing.
I think you're right. But then
why
would they call him Samson and Hagar?
It's like Hall & Oates, Dave. Oates doesn't sing either, but he gets...
Yes, he does.
Yeah, but not lead. Not like Hall does.
No.
Right? I mean, come on. I'm not... I mean, he's a co-songwriter and yada, 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 but let's face facts, right?
Yeah.
It's probably like the same kind of scenario. But I really think Sam probably forgot about it because I don't think he's the lead singer on that.
Yeah, good point. Didn't sound like him, that's for sure. Letter number 21 comes from Dave from Pittsburgh, from the Van Halen Links, and he says, loving the podcast as always, and fun to hear about your discussion about balance. That was the first new album for me after becoming a fan in late 91, and it's quite special to me. Just like most others agree, the production was phenomenal, but I appreciated your love for Don't Tell Me, which I don't think enough fans agree on. I do, however, disagree with Not Enough being Journey-ish, or whatever the comparison was, when the band kicks in during the chorus with the heavy guitar, big drums, and bass, it becomes Van-fucking-Halen. Just like When It's Love and Even Love Walks In. With the big drums, that's what it separates from the ballads from like Journey and Aerosmith and Bon Jovi. As far as Strung Out goes, yeah, it's strange, and no one but probably Ed likes it, but I think it's pretty cool and interesting what he did. I do agree it's way too long and should have been treated as the novelty it is, and I think it should have been kept but consolidated into a 10 to 15 second intro to Not Enough, like the cool effects Eddie used on Dirty Water Dog intro. I think fans would have appreciated it more that way. But being anal retentive, man, does it bother me that it was accidentally kept on Best of Both Worlds. I
agree.
I know, who cares, but I do. Dave from Pittsburgh. Wow, that's interesting, Dave. It's funny how you say that, how albums hold special meanings because of the time you got into them. That's certainly such a case. I totally identify with that. Yeah, Not Enough. To me it does sound Journey-ish. I'm sorry if you feel that way. I gotta be honest with you, I feel like Bon Jovi and Aerosmith songs, I have to say that they had the big band coming in with the drum and the bass and the guitar, and like Aerosmith with Crying and What It Takes, or Bon Jovi with Always, Bed of Roses, Journey with Faithfully, Open Arms. These guys all have the big band coming in, but I think, Van Halen's just harder edged than those guys, and I expect a little more. I totally respect your opinion, and that's totally fine. The song is good. You know what it is? I just think that the positioning of it on the album and with Strung Out, it just grinded the album to a halt. And it was just like this boulder in the middle of the living room, And it got that feeling on it. The Strung Out, I'm sorry, I can't get around it. I respect your thoughts on it. However, I just think it's so non-musical. And here's the way I see it, okay? If we're going to have an Eddie Van Halen solo, right, this is what we get. I mean, there's so much genius in this guy's hands. This is what we get. Like, we're going to take time and space out of a Van Halen album to pause, and let's hear Eddie Van Halen alone, and we get Strung Out. Like, that's what bothers me. That's my whole issue. What do you say?
That's not the first letter we've gotten with somebody showing the love for Not Enough.
No, I know. That's true.
Right? And I don't necessarily agree with it. I mean, if you don't want to say it's Journey-esque, I mean, hey, that's fine.
Right,
but I do think it's the typical power ballad. I think Love Walks In is also close to dangerous territory in terms of being a power ballad. Mm-hmm. I think that song is Journey-esque.
Yep, totally.
I just, when Van Halen starts going in that direction, I'm kind of like, well, there are other bands who can do that and sound that way.
Right.
Yeah, they'll eventually kick it in, but to your point, Dave from New York, I think other bands can kick it in too.
Yeah.
So, Dave from Pittsburgh, look, I respect your opinion. Hey, you like the song, more power to you. Different people are going to like different songs on the album at different levels. If you like it and it appeals to you, hey, hats off to you. Just it just doesn't do that much for Dave or I. That's all.
True. That's true. Letter number 22 comes also from the Van Halen links. The person's name is KYDTSOOS. I can't pronounce that, but it's their code. He says, Dave, I just started listening to your podcast from the beginning, and I'm not sure how I missed this before, but I'm only on episode 10 right now, but we'll catch up. It's so much fun for me to listen to, and I thought I was a Van Halen expert, but there's always something I didn't know in every episode, and I love the in-depth discussions and the interviews. It's way too much good information in there to miss a single episode. Thank you, Dave for putting it out there. It's really great, and I will be caught up soon. Hey, man, thank you so much for discovering it. The cool thing about podcasts is you can kind of dig back and still enjoy everything there.